Namaste, Cindy Terry. In the spring of 2009, I was 45 years old. In my body, I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. I was diabetic, atrial fibrillation, I had back pain, knee pain, every kind of pain, headaches, shoulder problems. In my mind, I had general anxiety disorder, I had post-traumatic stress disorder, and major depressive disorder. I'd had some major life changes, and they kind of occurred all at one time. And I truly was suffering from a dark night of the soul. My spiritual separation from myself, the divine, and God was very real. Everything I had depended on was dead. All I had left was my body. And I had never depended on my body for anything. All I was thinking is I would have to move my body. I was always interested in yoga. I was interested in meditation. I did contemplation. I was a spiritual seeker. What I found was Misty in the house. Fridays is when I went once a week, and Amanda Baskin was the teacher. I was very inspired by Amanda because she was a short, little, older person, like in her 30s. She wasn't a little skinny, slender, pretzel-looking, sweet cheerleader girl. Even in that once a week, I began to see a lot of progression in my body. I think I was hooked on hot yoga from the beginning. And I found that I was a strong person. I had a strong body. And that also I had a talent or ability for being very flexible. And so that's where I started, and that's what I worked on. A year later, there was a trip to Sedona posted. I wanted to go. I love Arizona. But for a yoga trip that would be so body dependent, I felt a little too ashamed of my body and my abilities, or no ability, to take a trip like that. The teacher that did the trip was responsible for everybody. She came and did a weekend intensive at the house, at the yoga house. I only got to attend the Friday night session, but I found her to be very authentic, very accepting, very warm, and non-intimidating, even though she was gorgeous and, almost perfect body and that kind of thing. Her authenticity and Misty's absolute insistence that I do this made me decide to do it. However, because I was 285 pounds and had these other issues, I knew that physically, for sure, I wasn't going to be able to make it. And if I did the trip, and I would embarrass myself even further. Not only did I think I could do it, of course I got there and then I couldn't do it. So I made the commitment to get ready to go on this trip. And so I bumped up the number of times I went to the house. I started practicing yoga almost daily at home. And it came time for the trip, and I was ready. I was still scared. I didn't know how I would make it, how I would do, but I went. And it was a real turning point in my life. Not only the commitment to go in the first place, but the things I was able to accomplish while I was there made me know that I truly could do whatever I wanted to do, whether it be physically, whether it be with my mind, or whether it be in my spirit. So it was huge. I practiced at my own pace, and by the time I went, my body was stronger, and my mind was clearing. I roomed with Rhonda Lord, and she was in the midst of her teacher training with Misty. It was one of Misty's first teacher training classes, I believe. It was maybe even the first or second, for sure, pretty sure. But one of the books that Rhonda had, she brought the books that she was going to have for class, and one of those books was Paramahamsa Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi. And reading that book helped me tremendously. And with that, then my spirit began to open up. And I slowly began to knit all those pieces of me back together. Then around 2 years later, Misty literally made me take teacher training. I was still somewhat body shamed, but I seriously was forced into it by Misty. And Desiree told me that if I took teacher training, it would take my practice to a whole new level. So for me to just think about doing it for my practice, and with her talking about it like that, then I decided that I would do it. And Misty offered me offered me something I couldn't refuse. So I went. Once I loosely became tied together, I found the courage to have bariatric surgery. And that'll be 2 years ago this year. And once again, I am stronger in my mind, body, and spirit than I ever dreamed I could be. I am a yogi. I will always be a yogi. I will always practice. There is peace in my soul. You are connected. You're connected when you have peace in your soul. The connection between your mind and your body is your soul. The connection, the connection between your body and your spirit is your soul. Therefore, when you have peace in your soul, you are connected. Not talked about a lot about Misty in this speech. In yogi, your guru is with you on your journey. There is some leadership, but the journey is yours. There is a name in the yogic tradition also that a yogi uses for a term of endearment and respect, and it is Guruji. I've got a poem that I'd like to read that has meant a lot to me for years, like 20 years. But I'd like to read it right now because for me it describes Misty in the house, and for the last 7 years for me. It's by Howard Thurman. He's one of my favorite mystics, Christian mystics. He was born in the early 1900s and taught as in a seminary, not a seminary, but I think it was Yale, in divinity school there in the 1930s. And he wrote a lot of meditations and such. So here's this one, and it's called The Threads in My Hand. Only one end of the threads I hold in my hand. The threads go many ways, linking my life with other lives. One thread comes from a life that is sick. It is taut with anguish, and always there is the lurking fear that the life will snap. I hold it tenderly, and I must not let it go. One thread comes from a high-flying kite. It quivers with the mighty current of fierce and holy dreaming, invading the common day with far-off places and visions bright. One thread comes from the failing hands of an old, old friend. Hardly aware I am of the moment when that night-tight line slackened, and there was nothing at all. Nothing. One thread is but a tangled mass that won't come right. Mistakes, false starts, lost battles, angry words, a tangled mass. I've tried so hard, but it won't come right. One thread is a strange thread. It is my steadying thread. When I'm lost, I pull it hard and I find my way. When I'm saddened, I tighten my grip, and gladness glides along its quivering path. When the waste places of my spirit appear in arid confusion, the thread becomes a channel of newness of life. One thread is a strange thread. It is my steadying thread. God's hand holds the other end. Misty, you in the house are my thread. You're my friend. You're my soulmate. I love you, Guruji. You gave me the space and the courage to do the hard work. I honor you with my spirit, with my mind, and my heart. Namaste, Guruji. Go in peace. Kiss. Kiss.